I'd like to introduce our panelist speakers and thank them very much for coming here to share with us their information. They've got a lot of experience and some unique perspectives on the Cup. And right to my left, Ashley Tobin, who's a father, I guess, raised in the America's Cup as a sailor and navigator, and she also tried out in the San Diego America's Cup with Bill Koch's team in '95. She's been involved with the BMW Oracle racing team for 3 campaigns starting in 2001. She was Deputy General Counsel and Rules Advisor, and responsible for the BMW sponsorship relationship. Ashley started her own business, Startline Strategies, where she uses all this, the technical legal sponsorship knowledges for many other teams on service, contracts, crew policies. And her clients have included the Pirates of the Caribbean Volvo Ocean team, the World Sailing League, San Francisco Speed Sailing, Sausalito Challenge, Super Yacht Refit. And she also is recently represented the America's Cup Organizing Committee in negotiating the host city agreement here. So Ashley has a tremendous amount of experience from sponsorship and team side, and that's some other information I think we all want to try and understand better about how those relationships work and what we can utilize there. And to Ashley's left, Eric Holzheimer. He's Managing Director of Global Sports Access, and Eric has served as Director of Day-to-Day Operations for Global Sports Access. They have more than 19 years of corporate meeting, incentive, and sponsorship and event production experience. Eric has grown Global Sports Access to serve in excess of 4,000 corporations, encompassing more than 5 million users. GSA's clients are primarily involved literally hundreds of events annually, but Eric and his team have provided support for many various sailboat races, including 5 of the 6 last America's Cups. So again, lots of great America's Cup experience. And Howie Sheibler is the USA distributor for Protector USA. And probably before the America's Cup in Auckland, you'd never heard of Protector, and it really wasn't a household name. But Howie happened across Auckland and happened across Protector and had a great opportunity to bring the Protector to the United States. And I think Howie's experience and Protector's experience with a brand making a leap because of the America's Cup is something we'd all like to think about too. I mean, we've all got businesses here or organizations, yacht clubs being, how do we take the America's Cup and leverage it to make a leap with our business? And Protector is one business that we all know about now, we didn't know about before the America's Cup. So Howie's got a perspective to share with us there. So what I'm going to just pass the microphone and let each of these speakers give you a little bit of their insights, and then we'll open it up for some Q&A, and you can ask them some questions after their talks. Maybe go ahead.
Thanks, Sean. Well, I'm a lawyer. I don't admit it very often, but by definition, therefore, I don't have any funny stories. That being said, I've had some interesting experiences, but I won't go into the details with some of these sponsorship negotiations. I've been asked to speak on sponsorship with regards to sailing teams. I find that whether you're talking about an America's Cup team or other types of sailing events, they're not all that different, except maybe the amounts. I will be speaking on what a team is looking for. I'll also talk about what a sponsor or supplier may be looking for in these kinds of agreements, what an event organizer may be looking for, what a smaller marine business could offer, as well as what a smaller marine business can expect in return. I am assuming that the smaller marine business is the audience I'm addressing here, but given our limited time, this talk will be fairly high level. I'm happy to answer questions afterwards or follow up with phone calls or emails. What's a team looking for? What I've seen is there are really 2 types of sponsorships. One that we generally call sponsors, and the other that we call suppliers. Sponsors, when a team goes out to try to make an arrangement with a sponsor, typically is a fairly large corporate sponsor. My experience with America's Cup teams is that we have looked towards corporate sponsorship, mostly for money, lots of money, as much money. All these things are underfunded, no matter who's behind them. They always need more money. They need it sooner rather than later to get the design work going and the boats built. So generally they look to have at most 5 top-level corporate sponsors, 1 or 2 at the very top, and then kind of they level down, but not much more than 5 to give each of those top sponsors a real benefit for the money they're contributing. Behind that, we generally saw about 10 smaller corporate sponsors, not very small, but 10 lesser than the very top 5. Most of the other types of sponsorship agreements, by large percentage, was what we call suppliers. And these are agreements that the team is looking for either products, materials, or services that are in kind or in exchange for benefits that the team can provide to the supplier. And again, in the America's Cup team that I worked with, we would have as many as 100 suppliers, give or take, over a 3-year period. So significantly more than the top levels, obviously. And I think there may be people in this room that fall into that category. What should a supplier be looking for? Whether you're a top-level sponsor or supplier, again, at a very high level, these suppliers are looking for branding exposure, hospitality, you should be looking for involvement with the team, and you should be looking for promotional marketing rights. How does that differ from what an event organizer is looking for? You know, team versus the event organizer. The event organizers for these types of events are also looking for sponsors and suppliers. They tend to obviously initially focus on one really top level sponsor. In this event, obviously for years that's been Louis Vuitton. That's helped out tremendously. But it does fall through where they're looking for smaller level suppliers as well. They also want to make sure that the team sponsors do not conflict with any of the top event sponsors. So that's just something to be aware of, even at the supplier level. If you are really interested in a team, you may be writing your options off for an event authority or vice versa. You just want to make sure that your message is consistent and you've done your research before you're approaching somebody. And the last thing I think that is certainly in the America's Cup, the event organizer is really part of their responsibility is to protect any event trademark or logo. And so for anybody, I've already seen a few instances of people popping up new websites that the words America's Cup and that the image of the America's Cup is very protected and restricted. So if you want to be approaching a team or an event authority, make sure that you have really had that discussion of that you're within your rights for using certain things, because otherwise the conversation doesn't get very far right out of the block. So about the content of your service. What can a small marine business offer? I would say lots. In particular, in kind, I would repeat what Gary Jackson said. Be prepared to put in. And I don't say that necessarily as contributing cash or money, but really the time and the interest. With the America's Cup, everybody that's involved, it really is 24/7. Those get really involved. You live and breathe it. Your cell phone's on your hip all the time. And I would say, as a supplier approaching any team or the event authority, if you can give assurances that you're that kind of supplier, that you're going to be on call and ready for them, that will go a long way. Be creative. If you come into an initial meeting to sell your services, don't make assumptions about either what a team may want or what your services is. And a good example of that, I for years, I'm not actively there now, but I taught sailing at Olympic Circle Sailing Center, and I would say to Rich and Anthony that yes, they've got a fleet of charter boats, and that's the obvious, you know, a sailing school, charter fleet. But another thing that Anthony has always been very generous and creative with is the use of his facility. So especially for some of these underfunded teams coming in, they may be really looking for a place to have a conference room on a regular basis, or a place to throw an event for their sponsors. So really think of what you have to offer outside of your normal business that you're supplying. That can go a long way. What can you expect in return? Again, I think I'm going to give a laundry list of things here that I've seen in these supplier deals. Really, depending on what you have to offer, you could get some or all of these types of benefits. First of all, it's pretty typical to have some kind of title. Our team typically used official supplier as a title that you then are legally able to use in your advertising or marketing. Of course, our contracts always said you had to get pre-approval, so that's also pretty typical when you put things out into the public media to get approval from the team before doing so is always a good idea. Another typical benefit, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with the bases here and how closely they are together, but would be to get your company name on the base signage. It's not unusual to have one big wall with all of the sponsors and corporate logos listed there, somewhat in groupings of level of contribution. But again, as a local company with a lot of people coming through and seeing the bases, to me, I think that was pretty valuable to companies, suppliers. Another benefit to try to negotiate for spaces on the spectator boat. Some bigger teams will have their own spectator boats. Some of the smaller teams will not. They might go in conjunction with getting spectator boats. But the importance of negotiating tickets on a spectator boat may be for yourself personally, or a friend, or it may be a thank you to somebody else in your business. They become very, very valuable and in demand at the end. So it's something to try to negotiate up front. Again, reiterating what Gary said, to be out on the water, there's nothing like it. It's not the same as being on shore. You may be able to get a prominent team member quote or appearance presentation, again, in your negotiation, depending. That's for a supplier that's giving quite a bit. But if you're a supplier, say, of electronics, you may have one of the design people be able to present to your company or give a quote that you could be given permission to use in your advertising, saying how great your particular product is. Again, can be pretty valuable. Merchandise, you can negotiate for t-shirts, hats. You can also, that tends to be limited, but not always. You can also negotiate for discounts on other gear. The bigger teams that are really making lots of gear should be able to give most of their suppliers some kind of discounted rate. They sometimes call it a team and family rate on gear that you're getting. Another, again, depending on the size of the team, another thing you may look for is rights to photographs. A lot of teams will have their own photographer, keep a library of photographs that are available for their special sponsors and suppliers. And if you have rights, you can tap into that website and pull from it in creating your advertising and marketing materials. Those are pretty limited. Most people outside of suppliers don't get those. And another is a newsletter. You may want to ask for, as a basic, getting the relationship, once you have the deal done, the relationship announced in the team newsletter. And again, if you're one of their higher level contributors, you may even get your company logo listed on the margin of the newsletter, things like that. So again, that's just a laundry list of different things. So it goes on, but that kind of gives you an idea of what to keep your heads up about. And again, just in closing, I can't emphasize enough of how to really think outside the box and be creative of what you can offer beyond what you think your product or your service is. And that's it.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's the Derek.
I appreciate all of you staying so late, and after listening to Gary, John, and even Ashley, feel a little bit pedestrian sitting up here. But my role in coming to you, hopefully I can impart some experience and knowledge that I have, not just with AC, but with pretty much every major event on the planet, which is what we do from a corporate standpoint. So everything from entertainment to hospitality, transportation, parties, dinners, accommodations, sponsorships from the other side of the table, representing the corporations from one-man operations up to Fortune 50s. And it's really a question that I have for you to start this, so I can kind of impart something that might be useful to you leaving here today. Can I get a show of hands that are people from yacht clubs or associations? What about from specific product, marine products, either here in the Bay or that you manufacture, distribute, etc.? And what about marine services? Okay, so right now associations and services kind of take the cake, but there's a good representation across the board. The thing that I think I can help with initially is to send you home with a job or a task, which is to do your homework. You need to understand what it is that you're trying to accomplish, not what AC can bring you, but what you're trying to accomplish for having this extra exposure land in your lap. So if you're a product supplier, how is this going to benefit you? You have to look at what your demographic is, you have to look at your existing client list, and then, as we see with a lot of these electronic or computerized dashboards, to generate duplicate clientele or potential clientele and begin the process of collecting and marketing to them to let them know of your interest. If you end up becoming a supplier or a sponsor, or even staying outside of the official boundaries, to show that you have involvement and begin the contact with those people. It's real easy to say 10 million people are going to come here. The question is, are they ever going to see you? And that would be true whether it's an association that's trying to create a grassroots or a groundswell for the sport, or if it's to build sailing, family outings, a youth program, or just their own membership for the service people. The chances of an AC team that is currently in production needing you out of the blue is probably low. If they haven't been in contact with you already, if you're not already on your radar, yeah, there's no question. There are a lot of products and services they're going to need when they come to town. However, if you're not positioned now to be there, to go chase that, and as Gary said in the beginning, you're going to have to invest to get a return on that investment. Your investment now is not mortgage your house and go buy Alcatraz because it's a cool place to do corporate hospitality. It's more to understand what you want to get out of this, and then when you sit down with the teams or with ACEA or ACRM and talk about how you can be involved with them, it's what you're trying to accomplish and what can they bring that will guarantee the eyeballs, the feet, whatever metric you want to use to do that. I've been fortunate enough, as has my company over the last 15, 20 years, that people pay us to go to these events and do these programs for them. So I've been very fortunate to go to the last 6 or 7 ACs. Didn't go to 2010. 07 was my last time in Valencia. But it's the same for almost every major event that happens. We all were excited or involved to some extent, or disturbed by the World Series coming here, and you saw the groundswell from that, from people that didn't care for baseball, but they were part of the excitement, they were part of the experience, and that's what it's about. So I'd leave you with the word engagement. You need to figure out what your engagement is going to be with the people you want to touch before you do anything else. It's like a business plan. You have to write it down, and I love the quote from Eisenhower, plans are worthless, but you have to plan anyway. I'm going to steal that. It's really true. I mean, you have to start somewhere. As an example, in November, when I knew it was down to Rhode Island and to San Francisco, coming to the U.S. as the defender of record, I started a group on LinkedIn around America's Cup. In 90 days, we have over 800 members. It will continue to grow. I have done almost nothing to input to it in the last 45 days, and it's doubled. You can do this in any number of social circles, social networks. If you're not on LinkedIn, if you're not on Facebook, if you're not on Twitter is a whole nother story. If you don't have something good to say every few minutes or every day, don't do Twitter. You know, have an account, follow people, that's fine, but yeah, nobody wants to know you're getting a cheese sandwich. But the social networks, the social environment is how you're going to reach a lot of people. And with AC bringing all this multimedia, if you're not plugged into it, your competitor is going to be. And it's a free opportunity. You don't have to do advertising. You simply have to do the work. You have to put in the effort for it. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. My name is Howie Sheibler, and my wife Tiffany and I own the Protector business that we started back in January of 2000. We definitely didn't plan that. I bought a Protector. I was sailing a lot then, doing a star campaign, and was looking for a coach boat, and bought one sight unseen, brought it over here, and I liked the boat so much, called the factory and said, you know, I'd like to represent you in the United States, and they said, yeah, lots of people do. Say that, and they want a discount on the boat. I had already bought one, and said, well, what's the deal? And he said, well, if you buy 6 of them, 6 more of them, then you can have the U.S. distribution rights. And so one was a long putt for me at the time, but we made the swing, and we bought the business and started focus on selling the boats into the sailing community, mostly here in the Bay Area. And you know, just to back up a bit, the Protector was built, the first one built in the late 90s, designed by a company that builds a great white style boat called Ray Glass in New Zealand, small company. And they used their core design to build the boat at the request of the New Zealand Coast Guard, who was looking for a search and rescue platform and liked their build quality. And basically didn't put hard sides on it. They integrated tubes into the side of the cabin, and a Protector was born. And when the America's Cup came, this small company had the foresight to connect themselves into what was going on, and lo and behold, in 2000, you saw a bunch of Protectors running around as AC tender boats and also as the judge boats for the Cup. I think an interesting side note about that is that many suppliers had come to America's Cup management trying to get that position, offering boats for free, and the Ray Glass company said, no, if you want us to build the boats, you got to pay full price for them. And America's Cup management made a choice quality to get protectors and not financially. So that was a little tip that I stored away, because I think all of us are thinking, you know, what kind of donation am I going to have to make in order to make sense out of some kind of relationship with the big boys? But when I bought the boat, I bought a red one. Kiwis aren't great when it comes to style. A red one with gray seats with blue and orange trim, which my marketing manager wife promptly nearly threw up on. But it was a great boat, and so we started bringing the boats in and selling them in the sailing community, and quickly started realizing this boat was not only a good product for the sailing community, but a good all-purpose boat. And so Tiffany talked me into teak flooring, which I fought for about 3 months and thought that was the most ridiculous thing ever, and nice rear bench seating, which was, she called, we've got to put a couch on this boat. And sure enough, we were selling teak boats with couches on them like hotcakes. And I think what I learned from that from Tiffany was that we really had to think about who was our prospective customer here, potentially not just the sailing vertical, but more broadly. And we had to brand our product not as a Hummer, but maybe more like a Range Rover. And so we did, and we're able to build a business off the core vertical sailing marketplace. But today, we've sold about 250 protectors in the United States. Mostly that core 28-foot cabin boat that I think most of you have seen on the bay. That's about 60% of the business, but we sold some bigger boats and some smaller boats. And 80% of our business today is to non-sailors, which is kind of interesting. So we've developed a brand and maybe even a new a boat product line, if you will, that has been accepted as being a good all-purpose boat, and that's what we're trying to drive. So it's been an interesting evolution. I certainly didn't plan to do this. I learned the hard lesson. There's no such thing as a side business, because I was working full-time when I bought one and started the business, and we had to invest in it. So we've had to invest a lot of time and energy and money into building the business. We're based over in Oakland now. For those of you who don't know, we're in the old MarineMax facility. We have a grand total of 8 employees, and we sell 25 to 30 boats per year. You know, many in the Bay Area. There's probably 75 protectors on San Francisco Bay, but a lot in other parts of the country as well. And as I think about the Cup, you know, of course I never dreamed the Cup was going to come here. And John Craig, I don't know if you're still here, but I have some solutions for you on some of those boat needs you were talking about. I first wrote down 50 on my little notepad, and then I wrote 150, and then 200, and then I stopped writing. It just said I better make an appointment with John. I think the opportunity isn't actually just going to be with race management. In fact, I'm not sure that we'll have protectors as race management. We're going to try hard, but I think there's going to be a lot of competition for that type of stuff, and they haven't really figured out even what they're going to need. I think we see the opportunity, certainly for people that want to get a boat and get on the bay and be part of what the action is. That's probably the more obvious opportunity for us locally, and it's great to be based here and on the water to be able to do that. But you know, we're actually trying to think about the opportunity and where we're investing our time more along the lines of, first of all, how do we help make this not Valencia or not, I shouldn't critique Valencia, I was going off of Gary's comments, but we should make sure as a group of residents here and business people here that we make this the best Cup ever. I think anything that Tiffany and I can do to contribute to that will help our business, and so we're trying to think more broadly about that. She's involved in some things in the town of Tiburon right now, and I'm trying to join in with some of the groups that are forming to think about things like this, like John's here. And I'm thinking about it more broadly as what's the branding opportunity for protectors. So we've built a nice small business. Maybe we can build an even bigger business as we think about the larger brand opportunity of the exposure of all these folks coming from around the world and maybe get a chance to see our product and get a sense of what it's like. And I guess I'd close by saying I'm actually anxious to work with all of you in any way that you think it might make sense for us to talk about how not just we help to make the Cup great, but you know, what are some of the ideas that we have where we could use our collective capabilities as service providers or product providers to make sure it's a great cup or do some things. You know, I think of my friend Paul Kaplan and the facilities he's got now over in Sausalito, and Paul and I haven't chatted about this, but you know, I got to sit down with Paul and talk about how he's thinking about this, or Scotty Easom and how he's thinking about his business and others. I think we should all be really talking about this a lot and applying our creativity and energy towards making this a great cup and helping one another have success. I don't see us competing for the America's Cup dollars that are going to be here. I see us help all contributing to making that pot of money very large. So thank you.